Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. We are live here on this second day of April, folks. Listen. 3 weeks from tomorrow will be the NFL draft. I'll be here with the Mad New Yorker. Probably do about the first 10 picks we'll go over, and I'll give you my mock draft of those 10 picks. I've just been very busy with the day job, had some financial issues I had to take care of and whatnot. Well, it looks like I'm having a problem again on Roku TV. But anyways, got a great show with you for tonight. Sean Pollard, assistant football coach out of Hazelwood High School in the St. Louis area, gave him an Uber ride a few weeks ago when the SEC tournament was coming on here in the Nashville area here. Going to ask him about the recruiting aspect of college, high school to college and whatnot, get a little bit on his background. He was telling me stories about excellent players out of this area that went to University of Missouri, Sheldon Richardson, former Jet. He has, I might ask him about ties to him, defensive tackle, Darrell Green Beckham. You Titan fans remember him. So got a great start. This guy really knows football. I think he's going to be an excellent guest here. Got an assistant high school coach coming on 30 minutes past the hour. Going to talk also about Jalen Monroe. Pittsburgh seems to be really interested in him. Went out with him on his pro day and whatnot. Mel Kiper brought up something really interested a few days ago about him in comparison to Lamar Jackson. I'll play a soundbite for that for you as well. And I'll give you my thoughts on the Final Four. So stand by. We'll take our first and only break. I'll be back here momentarily, and we will hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Scope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
All righty then, I'm back here live. I just had to make some more notes. Another question I want to ask Sean when he comes on about this Luther Burden mocked to go to Tennessee by many mock drafts in the second round. I'm going to ask him about him. I just that was like one of those last-minute questions that just came to me. You know, I'm a little rusty not doing the show 5 days a week. Like I said, I've had some car issues. I've had to work more. Took a big financial hit there on that, and just a lot of bills compiled on me. So been driving Uber a lot more. So that's, you know, why I'm having to do the show, really 2 live shows a week. Hopefully I can get back doing some more. I may be able to record some more shows and put them for you that way, because I really want to get back on here and talk some sports here. Okay, quick thoughts here on the Final Four. Very impressed overall. If I just had one team that really stuck out for me, it would be Houston. The way they shut Tennessee down, they dominated Tennessee the way that Tennessee dominated Kentucky for a big portion of last Friday. Let's go back 1 week ago. Last Friday's game in the Sweet 16 game there for Tennessee. But Houston's Calvin Sampson, talked about him with Rick Pitino. Great comeback story there from the show. I know he's been back for a few years, but really, I mean, this is a very good team. The best defensive team in the country coming into this tournament, 58.3 points a game. And, man, did they really show that on Sunday. I was just so impressed there. Good to see you, Chad. So impressed with Houston's output there. Of course, I had Tennessee in my Final Four. I've had all 3 of the teams in the Final Four that are in the Final Four, except for Tennessee. It was pure chalk, all 1 seeds, which what goes to show you about this. And by the way, they held Tennessee to 15 points at halftime. I mean, that is 2,000 Baltimore Ravens-like defense if you're doing a football analogy. If you're doing a basketball analogy, this is the Pistons of the 80s type of impression here. So you've had 3 you have the SEC teams, obviously Auburn, Florida, and, of course, Duke. Duke had 4 returning starters coming into this season. And, of course, you've got Cooper Flagg there, the rookie freshman sensation, is going to be an excellent NBA player. You just got to wonder where he's going to fall. Love to see a guy like that go to a Danny Ainge run Utah team, per se. Some thoughts maybe he'll go play with Wemby. That would be like a lottery hit for the Spurs there. Go play with Wembanyama, and of course, I can't play. They just traded for another player, and his name is slipping my mind. That would be interesting, to say the least, you know. But anyways, also just a few notes. I was impressed with Florida's grit. Had Florida national championship game. Them coming back on Texas Tech the way that they did the last 5 minutes there. Really impressive there for their comeback as well. They look like a beatable team against Texas Tech. Obviously, they almost slipped up and lost that game. But so far, I'm most impressed with Houston. And, of course, Duke playing like a team that really mirrors last year's and the year before that's Connecticut team, if you ask me. They still look like the clear-cut favorite. Some people still really leaning Auburn, like Auburn. Haven't been that impressed with Auburn, but they did make it here. Always love Bruce Pearl and what he did. Chad had the same Final Four that I had. It's a chalk Final Four. That means the committee done it right. We've had the highest ratings coming in since 1993. That was when Chris Webber. That was when Chris Webber had the famous with phantom timeout, which he did not have, and got called a technical for back against Carolina in 1993 against Dean Smith, getting his second championship, first one with Michael Jordan there. So Kelvin Sampson said in an interview earlier this week, coach for Houston, that he sees more players staying in the college game and not going to play semi-pro. The NIL numbers are really good. This is exactly, not to sound like a recording here, but that's just the truth. This is what I envisioned NIL doing for the college basketball game. Had a pretty intense debate last week. I've clipped it with Carlos, saying that if the NBA would actually cooperate and just scrap that G League and really cooperate with college, you've got better coaching, you've got millions in marketing, millions and millions of dollars in marketing familiarity there. I think it'd be nice to see a Cooper Flagg, a couple, even though we know he's ready, right? The players that we know that's ready. LeBron was ready right out of high school. I thought Carmelo Anthony was ready when he left Syracuse. But my point is, those players aren't going to starve to death. You know, those guys are going to have NIL money out the wazoo. Okay, they're going to be fine just because. And but if you got everybody that is 3 years plus, I mean, LeBron. Look at LeBron James. He's 40-something points the other day in the G League. He was not ready for the NBA. He would have been great at USC or somewhere else this year. He would have been a good helping hand for an Auburn, or maybe off the bench guy for Carolina or somebody like that. You know, it's okay to stay in college and get developed. So, but Kelvin Sampson was saying, yeah, this is probably what it's going to be from now on. And I love it. I expect the ratings to be all-time high coming up this weekend when the Final Four starts. Chad, that could really be orange-colored glasses there with me too. I've always thought that Rick Barnes' teams are always good. They're never great. They're good enough to get to the Elite Eight, maybe 1 out of 5 Final Fours. That's why Texas moved on from Barnes. He was an upgrade from what they had, but this is as far as you can go with Rick Barnes' teams. You know, they just can't get over that hump, and I don't think they ever will. Unfortunately, they had a good season. They're better than they used to be. Quite frankly, they're better than they've ever been. Getting a 2 seed and getting in the Elite Eight, Sweet 16 on a regular basis. Back when I was in high school, early college years, Tennessee was dreadful until they hired Bruce Pearl. I thought they were always just a kind of a mediocre team there. We pulled for Kentucky here in Nashville in the 90s up until Pearl got here. So anyways, I think it's great. I think it's going to be highly rated, especially since you've got a player like a Cooper Flagg surrounded with a bunch of veteran players there. Okay. Remember, they had 4 starters coming back. Same thing with Houston. I like that. I like continuity. You know, I don't like a bunch of guys being thrown together one year and say, hey, go out there and play a basketball game. You know, I was telling a friend of mine, I think that's what hurt Kentucky. The whole team practically transfers. It's hard to develop some chemistry there, especially if you have injuries and whatnot. So, okay. I don't want to waste too much time here because I've got a very good soundbite here. Mel Kiper's got this podcast show he does with Phil Yates out of ESPN. He's talking about the NFL draft and players that may be coming up, players may be going back, quarterback play. And I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but Jalen Monroe had his it was last week, I want to say, had his pro day. I know this was in the middle of the SEC, between the SEC tournaments and the big conference tournaments and the big NCAA tournament. And these pro days kind of get lost in the shuffle. Remember, the the combines are back in late February. So once March Madness starts, we get a little bit sidetracked here. But Mel Kiper mentioned, Jalen Monroe had ran a 4.37 at his pro day. I remember Kiper last year in October mentioned something in regards to this guy could be a top 10 pick if you look at his performances year before last against Georgia when they beat Georgia, and then this past year when they beat Georgia. This guy's looking like a possible player that can win the Heisman Trophy at one point. I mean, you're beating the top players in the league. So, Mike Tomlin, the Steelers had dinner with him, the general managing staff and whatnot. We still know that the Steelers want to look at Aaron Rodgers. As of right now, has not been signed, not unless it's broke since I was preparing for the show. And sometimes news does break, and I'll talk about it in real time if need be, you know. But, and of course, I think Rodgers is going to wait. He is going to wait until the draft. He does not want to get caught up in a situation like Kirk Cousins where you sign this contract and then the quarterback's taken earlier, something like that and whatnot. But anyways, listen to Mel Kiper. If this does not come through on your side, just let me know, Chad and everybody, and I'll just basically decipher what he said. I tried to load this in. I could not get it loaded in any other way. I had to go do it old school way and just listen. This is Mel Kiper comparing this guy, Jalen Monroe to Baltimore's Lamar Jackson. Listen up.
I'm just going to say Fields second round. I think his talent, his skill set, and I kept looking at Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, 6'2 and a quarter, 216 coming out of Louisville. Jalen Milroe, 6'2", 217, almost identical, right? Jalen Milroe, 4.37 the pro day. Lamar Jackson didn't run. You know he'd be in a 4.3. 9.5 hands for Lamar Jackson, 9 3/8 hands for Milroe. Very similar. Completion percentage career for Lamar was 57%. For Jalen Milroe, 64%. Okay? He had a higher completion percentage career than Lamar did. Now, Lamar had more rushing yards and all that. And the Georgia game this year, you referenced it, Field. If you watched him against Georgia, and it wasn't the only game. No. He was 67% or better in 8 games this year, okay? But then he had the Clippers. He had the Oklahoma game, right? 11 for 26, okay? They contained up 3 interceptions in that game. Tennessee game, okay? He had some games where you say, boy, the Michigan game, the Bowl. There were games where you're sitting there, why wasn't he performing not just at a great level, elite level, but at least at a satisfactory level?
Yes. Now, if you look at that complete if you analyze the career completion percentage, now I will say this. Bobby Petrino, which, I mean, people can say a lot about him, kind of a scummy guy, been known to be a scummy guy, always trying to get the next job, even when he was at Louisville, going back to Petrino there, meeting up with the AD at Auburn, between games at Louisville. We know about his issues in Arkansas there. We know about him leaving on the team, walking out on the Atlanta Falcons late in the season, leaving a note in the locker room. Bobby this guy, you can't trust him as far as you can throw him. But he's good. A lot of people would say that about Lane Kiffin too, right? But both of these guys are very good with quarterbacks. He got a lot out of Lamar Jackson. And Lamar's numbers, Lamar did win the Heisman Trophy in 2016 for Louisville. Had a great year in 2017 as well. Now, of course, he had some bad day. I mean, you look at that 50-something% completion percentage in college. I mean, that wasn't good. That was why when you have that kind of completion percentage and you're throwing the ball sideways, 27 touchdowns his last year, and 10 interceptions. This is Lamar Jackson. Then you compare that to Jalen Monroe. Jalen Monroe's 16 and 11 touchdowns, but a much higher completion percentage there. And of course, both had great rushing yards there and touchdowns. Monroe had 20. He ran for 20 touchdowns, Jalen Monroe. And, of course, Lamar Jackson, I want to say he also ran for a lot of he ran for 18. So he actually outrushed Lamar Jackson his last year, per se. But career completion percentage for Lamar Jackson, and that's a big deal. That's a big deal. 59% his last year compared to Jalen Monroe's, and he was an up and down, like he said. Sorry, I cannot get this stuff right here. You've got the. You're talking about 67 versus a 50 something, a 64. Excuse me, 64.3. That's what they look for in the NFL. You want to be 60 and above, and Lamar had 58. So you could see why he dropped. And here's the thing. If you recall, Lamar Jackson dropped all the way to the bottom of the first round. Ozzie Newsome drafted back into the first round to get him. He was actually drafted after Hayden Hurst, the tight end out of Arkansas, who had a great year that last year at Arkansas. Never really panned out. He was a pretty fair pro the way he did at Arkansas. But then they turn around and drafted Mark Andrews. They put two tight ends around Lamar Jackson, is my point. I'm trying to think of that general manager that said Lamar should just be a wide receiver. Bill Polian. Yeah, Bill Polian for the Colts. He got roasted for that. Race is this, race is that. He's just being honest. A lot of guys convert. Matt Jones, quarterback from Arkansas, got converted to wide receiver. But, hey, listen, the guy put in the work, and the team was really, really dedicated around him to put that perfect offense that complements his skill set. Again, two tight ends in the same draft. And, of course, the later tight end was the more talented Mark Andrews, looking back on it. And then, of course, they turned around and they hired a Greg Roman there to work with Lamar Jackson. So my question to Pittsburgh, would they dedicate, and I think Arthur Smith, former Titans coach, would he put that kind of offense? I think he could, looking at what he did with Ryan Tannehill. But the Steelers, you can't spend all that much. You're going to have to come off some of that money you're spending on defense. They're coming into a year where they just, Dan Moore's a Titan now. They're left tackle. So if I'm Steelers, if I'm the Steeler fans, if I'm the Steeler brass, they have been stale as an understatement for this team. Stale is an understatement. 21, I don't even think they'll have to move up from Jalen Monroe. Lamar Jackson, again, picked around, I think, the very last player, I think like 32nd or whatnot, in the first round in 2018. Now, Lamar, I wasn't sold on the guy until 5 years into his career. I said it was just a bad move there to pick Lamar Jackson that high. But, of course, the guy proved me wrong, went on to win 2 MVPs. Now, he's won some playoff games now. I think he's getting better. I think he presses a little bit. But what you really have to look at is, and this is something I should ask. I should ask my guest coming up here, Sean, is how do you measure a guy's heart? Can you find that out in your interview process? Jimmy Johnson used to say, I think he said this in his book, I would never ask the head coach about a player. He says, now maybe a Nick Saban, because Saban's going to tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it, the good and the bad and the ugly. That's what I love about Saban. But he says, I'm going to talk to the position coaches. Where's this guy's dedication? I'm going to ask the people, his friends around town. I'm going to ask all these people about him. How much does he like to party? How much film study does he really do? how dedicated. What's his parenting situation like? Does he have those parents like Kavarius Tears? The guest I had that now is a star baseball player with University of Tennessee, I've had him on in the past, that are really dedicated. Now, maybe the parents might not be around, but this kid is extremely driven. Deion Sanders, his mother was a janitor, okay? And he just had that really dark drive, just deep drive to succeed and ambition. Does he love the game of football? You have to, I don't think, because a lot of people want them, compare Monroe. Everybody that's fast now out of college get compared to Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is a lot like Peyton Manning. He's all football. I don't see, and I knew he had some kind of fitness thing he was promoting a few years ago, but he's nothing like these other guys. I mean, this guy's all football all the time. If you said he needed to put on some weight, he put on some weight. I think he thought he put on a little too much weight the year before last. So last year, he lost some weight and got his speed back here. So you have to address all that when you're looking at a guy like a Jalen Monroe out of Alabama. And I don't know if Pittsburgh's willing to do that, but Pittsburgh needs to look in the mirror and say, listen, man, everything is still, yeah, we're making to the playoffs every year, but we're getting smoked every year. Now this past year, you got smoked by a division rival. You got even more humiliated. And Mason Rudolph, backup's your current quarterback on roster. Now, Joe Flacco was still the quarterback for Baltimore. Totally different style of quarterback. So if they did go out and get Aaron Rodgers, I still wouldn't say, man, this Monroe project is already falling through. No, you've already got Freiermuth there. Go out and get another tight end and do some of that read option stuff that they did, that the Ravens are doing with the Lamar Jackson. Monroe, not quite the numbers of Lamar. Remember, Lamar won the Heisman, but you can see flashes of him. That 40 times there, and the higher completion percentage is there. The reason why his stock is down, because we know about the Oklahoma game. We saw the Tennessee game where they played him really well. So, but that's part of your team. That's part of doing your homework, is finding out, is this guy really got a deep desire to get better, or he just wants to see what football can provide for him, And it's so much mental once you get to this stage here, because the talent's there. Most of these guys got the talent. They wouldn't be asked to go to the combine if they didn't have talent, size, and whatnot. So, anyways, in other news, what's his name? Jim Haslam. I'm looking at my notes here from the wrong day. I want to say, Jimmy Haslam, the owner there of the Cleveland Browns, admitted, hey, look, we made a mistake. We made a mistake with Deshaun Watson, traded all those picks, first fully guaranteed $250 million plus contract, the biggest guaranteed contract in NFL history. I said a few years ago, I commend him for effort. I still don't know if they're going to draft anybody with that number 2 overall pick. A lot of the mock drafts are saying that Schroeder Sanders is going to fall like the Titanic. He could fall like Aaron Rodgers or something. One guy from ESPN says he compares him, I think it was Tim Hasselbeck. He thinks he's got like a Andy Dalton-like ceiling for Schroeder Sanders. So Jimmy Haslam says, hey, listen, we made a mistake. But I said when this was made a few years ago, for those of you that follow the program, I commend the A for effort. The A for effort for Haslam putting his neck out on line. Remember about the allegations and all that stuff with the massage parlors. I mean, it wasn't criminal, but it was a whole lot of people and a lot of people suing them, class action. And remember the fact that he set out practically 2 years, okay? So it was a whole lot of stuff going on there he could never recover from. But you got an owner like that, spend all that money, he take all that flack. I think that helps them in the long run to saying, okay, this is not your typical Cleveland Browns owner. This guy's serious about winning. And without further ado, I think, Coach, you can open your camera, Coach, if you want to. I see you backstage there. I think he's trying to get connected right now. Met this guy, Sean. Let me make sure and get my man's name right here. Trying to get my ducks in a row here. Coach Sean Pollard from, I want to say, make sure, dot my I's, is an assistant coach out of Hazelwood High School in St. Louis, Missouri. And I got to get, I guess I'll be ready to bring the coach on. They don't have his camera open, but maybe he just wants to do the talking part, and that's okay too. I've got a good question, but I got to get my crowd ready here. Again, this is, and I met Sean in an Uber ride. It was going during the SEC tournament. I was doing Uber that day when we had it here in Nashville area. And I think it was the coach's. Now he's still trying to get squared away. I could see it said device is not connected, but that's okay. Everybody goes through that when they're trying to get on the program. Took them downtown, go to a restaurant there, and I think they're going to watch University of Missouri play. And Sean knows a lot about these big time players out of Missouri. Right off the top, I mean, you guys like Darrell Green Beckham, remember him, Chad? The number one player in the country. Sheldon Richardson, defensive tackle, ended up being the 13 overall pick. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Sean on. Sean, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Here, let me give you a round of applause. Could you have that? Can you not open your camera? Oh, now he's going to try to do it. Okay, never mind. He's going to try to get the camera. If not, we'll just do it without. We'll do it without the camera open. If Sean, here. Hey, Sean. Yeah, I was going to say if the camera don't work, buddy, we can hear you fine.
Okay.
We'll do it like radio style.
That's fine.
Man, I was bragging on your football acumen backstage there and what you know about these guys. And I was like, man, he knows these players like right off the top of his head. And I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Was that your son with you that day?
That was my daughter with me. She wanted to ride down to the SEC. So my kids are big sports fans.
Your fans? Okay.
My
sports fans?
Yeah, my son is in college, actually. Works. He lives in the Chicagoland area. He's a college kid. He works for the Chicago Bulls part-time. So sports runs in my family.
Now, are you any relation to Bernard Pollard, former safety in NFL?
I have a large family. I actually did a camp maybe about 3 years ago in the city of Memphis for Tony Pollard. I don't know if we're related or not, but I went down there, met Tony and his family. So I have such a large family. I don't know who's who and what's what sometimes.
You remember Bernard Pollard played for the Ravens?
Yeah, it was a safety. Yeah. Hell of a player.
Yeah, he tore Tom Brady's ACL. And, 2008. I just had to throw that up there, man, because I know you know a lot about football.
Yeah.
How long have you been coaching? I didn't know you were the actual coach. I thought you was some kind of recruiter or go-between.
No, I've been coaching football in the St. Louis area about 20 years.
Okay.
Been at several different high schools. Got an opportunity, like I said, a guy brought me on his staff back in 2005. I learned a lot. And my high school career took off from there. Yeah,
that's awesome. Now, what is your side of do you primarily defense?
Primarily defense. I've been a defensive coordinator. I've been a DB's coach. So I've done a little bit of everything on the defensive side of the ball. The only thing I haven't coached is linebackers, but I've coached the defensive line before. I've coached corners, safeties, all those sorts of things on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I was reading your resume. I appreciate you sending me that the other day.
Yeah, sure.
Got to stop that run, brother.
Got to stop the run, man. A good defense always travels. Remember that.
Oh, amen. And in every sport too. Pitching, basketball. You mentioned something about Well, I mentioned Sheldon Richardson, and you mentioned some kind of relation there. What were you telling me about that day?
So Sheldon played for me from 2005 to 2008 in high school.
Okay.
You know, like I said, he was one of the top players in America at that time. I had everyone coming to the school, from the All-American people to ESPN to Todd Luganbill. I mean, you name it, they were there. I mean, I took phone calls coming out of my classroom. So that was a real hectic time, but it was a real eye-opener for me when it came to the recruiting and how this business really worked.
So were any of these assistants saying, listen, if you could steer this guy our way, there'll be a few $100 bills in a car somewhere. Does that ever happen, or is that stuff exaggerated?
I want to say this: something you can take to your grave with you, and you just don't want to get schools in trouble. But yeah, that has happened. Yes, it has. Is it big reward offers, or is it just a few $100s here and there? I mean, it could be a few $100 here, just set up a meeting, or you get this kid to sign with us. We make sure that you have a job. It's a lot of things.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard of that too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, hire you somewhere, or the kid's dad will get a job somewhere.
Yeah, they take care of you down the line. Yeah, big time college athletes, big time college sports. Yeah, it's a lot of money going around, and they will do whatever it takes to get the player that they want.
Okay, and what Colin Cowherd, he asked it, and I want to give him credit for bringing this up. He was. At what point did you realize that Sheldon may be special?
His sophomore year, we played a game against a suburban school, and he scored a touchdown. And Kansas State was in the stands that night, and he just put on a show. I mean, that was as a sophomore. Got his first offer from Kansas State. I believe the coach at that time was Ron Prince.
Okay.
The top recruiter at that time was a guy by the name of Mo Lattimore, who had been in St. Louis quite a bit. Took a lot of kids out of St. Louis. So they're the first ones to really show us love. Like I said, Kansas State really showed us some love, and the rest was history.
Man, did you notice anything from Sheldon in practice? Like, man, he's really dominating these guys.
Yeah. Sometimes one-on-one pass rush. I mean, he would just dominate some of the offensive guards and offensive tackles. But he had real soft hands as a tight end. Could have went to he could have went to school and played tight end. Kind of reminded me of how Warren Sapp was in high school. Warren Sapp was a tight end, and when he got to Miami, he became a defensive tackle, and the rest was history for him. And Sheldon was the same way. Real soft hands, could run the out route, up and could run the fade, could do all of that as a big 260, 270 pound, high school kid.
Did he go farther than you thought, or do you think maybe he could have been a better NFL player?
With the right system, if he would have stayed in Rex Ryan's system with the Jets,
yes,
I believe he probably would have been 2 or 3 time All-Pro. But when the coaching changes, you get moved different places, different schemes. Things change.
Yeah. He was that. That is a great story, man.
Mm-hmm.
That is really something. Richardson, I was always impressed with him. He ended up going to Missouri, didn't he?
He ended up signing with Missouri. The lead recruiter at that time was a real good guy by the name of Cornell Ford, who's actually at Purdue now with Barry Odom. Cornell was the lead recruiter, always came to St. Louis once or twice a week to check on him. Me and Cornell still keep in touch to this day. Gary Pinkel was the head coach, who really did a great job bringing that Missouri program back to life, because before Gary Pinkel got there, that program was on life support. I mean, Gary Pinkel really brought that program back to national prominence, and now Eli Jankowicz has it now where they're competing year after year in the SEC. So, I mean, Missouri has really come a long way in the last 20, 25 years.
Man, yeah, they have. They beat up on Tennessee a few years ago.
Yeah.
We were talking about Darrell Green Beckham. Now, tell me about your relationship with him.
He was a kid coming out of St. Louis. I mean, not out of St. Louis. He was from down in the Springfield area, maybe about 4 hours from St. Louis. And the recruiters, would always come and ask us, what we think about the kid. And the kid was a specimen. I mean, the kid was big, physical, number one receiver in the country, you know. And I believe the Titans drafted him,
Yes.
you know, down there in Nashville, but he's never panned out. I mean, he could have been special, you know, but I don't know, off the field issues, all those sorts of things, you know, but the recruiters from Missouri would always come to St. Louis and talk to the coaches about this kid, just, you know, how of a specimen and how he could be, you know, one of the top receivers to ever come out of Missouri or the SEC.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I was talking earlier about Mel Kiper mentioned a guy like Jalen Monroe. His measurables are almost identical to Lamar Jackson. Lamar did not run the 40.
Yeah.
Monroe ran a 4.37. And I noticed that, you know, when things happen, when a player succeeds like Lamar has, or you got a shorter player like a Drew Brees has, people want to emulate that. And I guess my question to you is, how can you tell that a player has that inner desire like a Lamar Jackson? What would you do if you are, say, an NFL scout or general manager? How can you find that? I mean, you have to do some serious investigating.
You have to do a lot of background work. I happened to work with a guy who was actually an assistant at UT back in the 90s, guy by the name of Charlie Coe. And Charlie taught us how scouts look at guys and the measurables and all those sorts of things. But the one thing he always told you can't put a price on a guy's heart and a guy who really wants to go out there and play. You can, you know, look at his film and you see what he does in pads. You don't look at what he does in shorts, running a 40 and doing all that. That's not going to tell me anything. I want to know what a guy does when he has that helmet and those pads on and what he does against competition. And the kid that you mentioned out of Alabama, that kid has played against top-notch competition. He's played in the best conference in the world. So he is battle-tested. I tell guys this all the time. He is battle-tested, okay? Right. And he's the guy that I think me and you were speaking of, that if I'm the Titans, I don't draft the quarterback number one. I build from the inside out and try to grab the best available quarterback in the second round. Or trade down to someone who wants to come up and get number one, and you stockpile. And I like the kid out of Ole Miss, the Dart kid. I would take him right there at maybe 9 and 10, and you build around that, you know. But you don't necessarily have to go get a quarterback at number one, because let's be honest, how many number one quarterbacks have panned out in the NFL in the last 10 years?
It's not the last 10 years. You mean number one overall? That's interesting, because Josh Allen wasn't drafted, neither was Patrick Mahomes. Neither were drafted number one overall.
Neither one were drafted number one. No.
Yeah, but teams still do it. Okay, since you brought that up, put that general manager hat on. I love to play armchair. This is why sports talk is great. What? Everybody, you know, armchair quarterback. I like to play armchair general manager.
Okay.
So, say you listen to the Giants. What offer do you hang the phone up if the Giants offer you for you to come off? Because now we're reading. I'm sure you're keeping up with that. I can tell by talking to you the other day.
Yeah.
That Cam Ward has seemed to separated himself from the other players, which means he's got some more value. He's got some distance between him and, say, a Schroeder Sanders or whatnot. What type of pick do you hang up the phone and say, come back when you're serious, New York Giants? What type of pick, what type of package would you be turned off and say, no, I'm just going to pick this player because you're not giving me enough to come off this one pick, Coach?
If I'm Tennessee and I'm the general manager and I'm talking to the Giants and they possibly want to move up to number one from number 3, I'm going to have to get that number 3 pick. I'm going to need your first round next year. Okay. I'm going to need a 3rd rounder this year and maybe a 5th round to move up and try to get an impact player. Try to get a guy on that team, maybe just an impact player who can come and be a bridge or something to the Titans, because you're not going to win right away. This is a 3 or 4 year process, and I hope the fans will understand that this is a process and it won't happen overnight. But I got to get something in return. I got to get a King's ransom like Jimmy Johnson, one of those deals. I got to get King's ransom for it.
Okay. That makes sense. Now, I've read that they do not want to come off of the first round in 26, and I'm like, I want future
Mhm.
first round picks, not just the third round pick or something like that with their third overall pick. I mean, that I got a feeling that's what they were trying to, from what I understand and been reading, that's what they've been talking about there, Coach.
Mhm. Yeah. But it's got to be a king's ransom. It has to be something where I can say, okay, I feel good about this, and I can slide down to 3 and still get the player that's on my board. You have to trust your board, Don't deviate from your board. I learned that listening to Ozzie Newsome years ago. Don't deviate from your board. Whoever's number 1 on your board, that's who you take.
He's one of my favorites all time,
Yeah.
Ozzie Newsome.
Yeah.
They really I was talking about this before you got on the program, is that they really dedicated to putting that team. They took 2 tight ends in that same draft, Coach.
Mhm.
Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews. So maybe Pittsburgh can add another tight end to complement Freiermuth if they wanted to go that route, and get a coach to complement him. So, we're on the same board, and we were talking about that, and we're talking about this with the audience as well, bringing it to light. That's the kind of model that it is easier and more doable if you get ownership behind you, is the Philadelphia model. Just stack the team, man.
Stack the team, because they just won a world championship, but they won a world championship with a second-round quarterback.
Yes.
He was not a first-round pick. Remember that. He was a second-round quarterback who came in, who sat, who learned, and when it was opportunity arose, he took advantage of it, and look what they've done.
Right. And they've had this philosophy for years. They've been in the most NFC championship games since 2000. They've been in more than anybody in the NFC. And look at the quarterbacks they've had. I mean, Carson Wentz can't get a job.
No.
Can't
get a job after he had that injury. He's never been the same quarterback. And Nick Foles is the one who won the Super Bowl previous.
Right. Nick Foles is a career. I mean, he started some, but mainly I saw him as a backup.
He was a career backup, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So what if you do not get that offer, Coach? Who would you take if you're the Titans?
I take Abdul Carter. I take the defensive lineman.
I'm a defensive guy.
I build around him.
Man, Chad says excellent views. So you really like Abdul Carter? You wouldn't roll with the Cam Ward?
I would not roll with a quarterback. I would roll. You build your team on the offense and defensive lines. That's what you do. That's how you build championship teams. If you go back and look at the Super Bowl, look at the defense that the Philadelphia Eagles, they did not blitz not one time. That front four with the kid from Georgia a couple years ago that no one wanted because he had off-the-field issues, they dominated that game.
Yeah.
You build your team through the offensive defensive line. Jim Harbaugh goes to San Diego. Oh, not San Diego. Los Angeles last year. His first pick was an offensive lineman. You build your team from the inside out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, that's not the glamorous thing to do, but getting these receivers here. Let me see. I had some other questions here. I know we get amped up on this NFL talk.
Yeah, sure.
So the Titans are looking to mock a lot of their mock drafts in the second round. They have them taking this guy, Luther Burden from Missouri. What are your thoughts on a guy like that? Have you saw this player?
Let me tell you something about Luther Burden. Luther Burden is probably one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen play. This is a true story.
Okay.
I was at a basketball game about 6 years ago. My son's playing a basketball game, and Luther Burden shows up at halftime. He just joins in the game. Luther Burden scored 30 points in 15 minutes. The best athlete I've ever seen. I mean, boom, 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 boom. I mean, the kid could play. The kid is an athlete.
So what is that? So you're saying that would definitely be a good spot for him at 35?
Be a good spot. I thought he would be higher. I really thought he would be higher. I thought he would be a late first, middle of the first, late first round pick. But these prognosticators are. But I believe whoever drafts that kid will get a steal.
Okay, who would you compare him to? Is there a comparable in your head that's NFL?
To me, He's probably a poor man Stephon Diggs.
Oh, wow.
Probably
Okay.
a poor man Stephon Diggs. Will go up and get the ball, can run routes very well. Because you remember, Stephon Diggs wasn't a high draft pick.
He was a 5th-round pick.
Yeah, he was a 5th. But those kind of guys I like because those guys are coming in hungry.
Yes.
They have a point to prove. The first-round guys that figure, I got it made. I got to work as hard. Where that guy who's getting that middle second round, the 5th-round guys, you got to think about the kid up in Detroit, the Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah,
18 guys drafted in front of him. He had 18 receivers, and he knows every last one that was drafted. He came in with a hunger. Guys like that, like the Burdens, if he gets drafted in the 2nd round, and the Diggs of the world, the Terrell Owens, the 3rd-round picks, those guys come in hungry.
That's a very good point there, Coach. You know, this guy that's projected to be the first receiver off the board, I think his name is McMillan from Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying something the other day, like, I don't watch film. I'm not that much into film. I'm thinking, man, you don't never want to get that out there.
Hey, you never say that because your position coach, you got the guys in the room sitting there like, you don't want to watch any film? Okay, I'm going to show you. So you're going to have your own battles in your own locker room and in your own building. If you let that get out, that's going to be a disaster.
Right. And he didn't run. He ran like 4.5. He didn't run like 4.4, 4.3.
Nah. Yeah.
I think his stock is going to go down, Coach.
Yeah, you don't let those kind of things come out. No.
Yeah,
No.
I figured. So you're a fan of Luther Burden? Any insight on him?
I've seen him play coming up through high school, coming up through. I mean, like I said, kid can play. You know, Dad was a Division I player. I believe Dad played basketball over at St. Louis University. So athletics is in the family. You know, but like I said, whoever gets him is going to get a steal.
Wow! Now I hope he's opposite of Calvin Ridley.
Yeah. And again, another kid who's battle tested, who's played in the SEC, which I say is the toughest conference in America.
It is, man. It really is. Let's see. I think I had another NIL question. Do you have any suggestions to settle this NIL thing down a little bit, to get some stability? Anything that
you got to have a governing body. You have to have a governing body. You got to have a salary cap because now it's the Wild West. Now it's free agency. I mean, the kids deserve to get paid. I take that away from no college athlete. You are making millions of dollars for that university. The worst thing you can do is give an 18 and 19-year-old kid a bunch of money. That's the worst thing you can do. Okay. And you see these kids are jumping from place to place to place to the highest bidder. You got kids who would normally go pro. It's like, look, I'm staying in school. I can make more money being in school than going pro.
Right.
You know, so I mean, there has to be a salary cap. It has to be a salary cap and a governing body because, like I said, it's getting out of control.
So you're okay with it just being full? I mean, the cat's out of the bag. It's essentially somehow pro already.
Yeah.
You know,
but I mean, you got kids asking for $3 or $4 million, and hell, he can't even get off the bench anywhere. So it's like, why am I going to give you $3 million? You're asking me for $3 million, and you couldn't even get off the bench at, you know, whatever school you was at, but you want to come to my school and ask me for $3 million? Come on.
Right. Yeah. Carson Beck transferred to Miami, and his Lamborghini got stolen.
Yeah. A Lamborghini. You give a 20-year-old kid, a 21-year-old kid a Lamborghini. Good luck.
Right. Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. So what are your goals going ahead, Coach? Are you reluctant to go to college now because of this?
Yes. I mean, I had offers to go to college years ago. But like I said, it's the Wild West. I mean, there's no loyalty. You're spending more time recruiting your own players to get them to stay than going out recruiting players to come to your program. You got to try to hold on to the guys that you have. You know, these mid-major schools, I feel sorry for those guys because they're glorified junior colleges now, because now you're getting the kid ready, you develop them, and that kid's saying, well, I had a good year. Well, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to this school here because they're paying me $2 million.
Yeah.
Do
you see it as a blessing in disguise for the basketball side? Because it looks like these basketball, it's a better. I mean, the quality of college basketball has been great.
It has, but it's killed the mid majors. We all used to tune into March Madness because we knew there was going to be some Cinderella team that was going to beat up blue blood, and we didn't have it this year because of this transfer portal. You had the NCAA tournament. I mean, realistically, did we have any upsets? I mean, was there really a legitimate upset in the entire tournament?
Yeah, St. John's got beat, but
yeah. But I saw that one coming because I knew they had no. I mean, yeah, they ran through the Big East, but I mean, when it comes to NCAA tournament, you got to have some chemistry. You see, he benched his best player for the last 5 minutes of the game, so and that kid said, "I'm out of here."
Coach.
He said, "I'm out of here."
You know something though, the flip side of this, us as viewers, the ratings are going to be better because we like familiarity though. That, Coach.
Yeah, but there's nothing. Let's think about it. When we were growing up watching March Madness, everyone remembers, Bryce Drew hitting that shot, in the NCAA tournament. We all remember the kid from Northern Iowa beating Kansas. Northern Iowa beating Kansas. We remember those things. But this year we didn't see that Cinderella. We didn't see the Davises of the world with Steph Curry this year. We didn't see the Florida Gulf Coast of the world. We didn't see any of that this year.
Yeah. But what about my dad was telling me about a game where Bill Walton missed only one shot in a game.
Yeah.
UCLA against Memphis State in the 70s.
Back in the 70s. Yeah, that game was actually in St. Louis. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know how. You seem like you're pretty young, man. I didn't know how.
Before my time, but yeah, that game was in St. Louis. Memphis State, I believe it was 1973, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was in the documentary.
Yep. 1973. As a matter of fact, when I was at the SEC tournament, I saw the guy from Kentucky. He does radio, Jack Givens.
Okay.
And I was telling my daughter, I said, yeah, that dude had the greatest game of his life in St. Louis in 78 in the Final Four. And my daughter was like, Dad, how do you know this? Like, you weren't even born. And it's like, hey, I did a lot of reading growing up as a kid about sports. So I just remember.
I love watching those old documentaries.
Yeah, I do too, man. I was just watching a documentary earlier about the Celtics. They call it Celtic City they got going on. So I've been watching.
I just started that.
Yeah.
The HBO one?
Yeah, the HBO one. I've been watching that lately. So I'm kind of into the documentaries as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on the first one of that one, man.
Hey, man, it's great. Trust me, it's great.
But my point is that when you got this good a team, are we going to have memorable? I'm recording. I'll be working Uber, I bet. But I'm recording these Final Four. I think that Houston and Duke game, that might come down to one shot. Houston's good, man.
Yeah, Houston is very good, very athletic, very long. Yeah, play great defense. But all Kelvin Sampson's teams have played great defense. All of them, even back in his days in Oklahoma, they played great defense when they were in the Big 8. Because I remember watching them years ago when they were playing Missouri every year in the Big 8 and in the Big 12. They always play great defense. Duke. Like you said, you got those freshmen there, and those are some pretty good freshmen there, But my only thing is when it comes to playing in dome stadiums, I tell everybody this, the depth perception is a little bit different playing in the dome stadium compared to an arena. So they're going to have to make sure they get plenty of shots up to make sure that depth perception, because the way these domes are set up, they set that court right in the middle of the field. They build it up on that platform. So they just have to make sure that they're okay shooting with that depth perception in a dome.
That is a very good point. Being a basketball player myself, just the idea, I would be there for hours just to get used to that in the air, the stadium, and it's just a different sound because it's so much bigger. Yeah. There's a lot to that, man.
There's a lot to it. And I don't know if any of those freshmen have been through that before, where Houston, they've been to a Final Four recently, I think, within the last 3 to 5 years. So Kelvin Sampson has been there, knows, the difference between playing in a dome and playing in an arena. But I also can say John Shire has been taught by the best in Coach K. So Coach K will have him prepared on what to do and how to do it once you get to the Final Four.
Yeah. Who do you like to win this thing?
Hey, man, I picked Florida. I'm going to stick with Florida. I think
Florida
he has them playing well.
Yes.
They went through the gauntlet of the SEC. You see, it paid off in the last 3 minutes of that ball game against Texas Tech. They didn't flinch.
Was amazing.
They didn't flinch. They were battle tested. I mean, that Clayton kid, hey, he's been doing that all year. So nothing surprises me. I'm going to take Florida.
Florida over who? Duke or Houston?
I'm going to take that's a tough one, but I'm going to give it to Duke. I'll take Duke by 3.
Wow. I had it the other way around because, Duke's got 4 starters coming back, and then they add the young freshmen phenoms.
Yeah. And the Flag kid is amazing. He can leave right now and be the number 1 pick, but he'll probably make more money sitting in school. If he wants to stay 1 more year in school, he'll make more money like we talked about earlier with the NIL.
Yeah.
Hell, he's already on commercials now as an amateur. Well, it's not amateurism anymore, but, I mean, he's already on commercials.
I wish they would. I was talking about this the other day that they should move the NBA should move the age limit like the NFL, 3 years out of high school or 21, whichever one comes first, Coach.
Yes, but that's how it used to be because remember the greatest Michael Jordan spent 3 years in college, and Dean Smith told him you had to leave, and he was like, I really don't want to go. When Dean told him to leave, that's when he left. Otherwise, he wanted to stay in school. Kids stayed 3 to 4 years back in those days. They developed their game. They came to the NBA ready. And now you got these kids at 18, 19 years old. They're sitting here with guys who are 24, 25 who've been in the league 4 or 5 years. And it's just a big difference to me. I like the veteran kids, the Caleb Loves of the world who've been there 4 or 5 years, who developed their bodies and done all of that and transitioned easily to the NBA.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. And NIL would keep these kids paid. It's not like they're going to be broke.
No.
If you're that good, you're going to get the NIL money.
Yeah. You're going to get NIL money, but plus if you're staying in school, you'll get a degree. That degree will take you a long way because the ball is going to eventually stop bouncing at some point in your life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who plays that are 62, man?
Exactly. The ball is going to stop sometime.
Coach, you have anything else to plug? I'm a little bit over my time, but it's been a blast, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, man, just been a blast as well, man. I appreciate you bringing me on, man. And like I said, anytime you want to talk, man, just reach out to me.
Yes, okay. Especially if he gets drafted. Who's it? Luther Burton gets drafted to the Titans. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great. Like I said, if I'm the Titans again, take Abdul Carter, number 1, build around that kid there. You take a receiver in the second round or a quarterback, and you build around the young guys, give Callahan some time. I think they'll turn it around. Okay.
All right. Appreciate you, Coach. Let me give you a round of applause. Coach Pollard, everybody. Thanks again. Hey, and listen, I'll send you a copy of this interview.
Okay, sure.
I'll email it to you.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Rob. Appreciate everything.
All right, man. Have a good night. All right, everybody. I'll be back here tomorrow and do the same type of arguing here with the Mad New Yorker. And he always wants to, pay. In one sense, Carlos he don't want to babysit and develop players in the NBA. In the other sense, he don't want to have this 3-year rule. I don't know. Go figure. But either way, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Go over some things. Stay tuned, and the Mad New Yorker will be here. Thanks again for Coach. Thank you, Chad. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, here on The Real Sports.